Peace be to you. Allah of Muhammad does not know where the sperms come forth. Needless to say, he knows how the sex of a baby is determined. A baby's gender is determined by a sperm's type, which first meets with its lover, called ovum, that is a single egg from an ovary of the woman. Let's critically examine the word by word, if the Quran makes any sense about the sexual reproduction. Quran 86 verse 5-7. So let man consider from what he is created. He is created from a gushing fluid, that issued from between the loins and ribs. Unquote. Pickthall Translation. Allah of the Quran says a man is created from a gushing fluid, that issued from between the loins and ribs. Really? Even high school students will know that the statement is false, lest he or she should not become a medical doctor. The region between the loins, that is the hip bones and the ribs, has no testes where sperms are produced. Are Muslims very sure that sperms come forth between the hip bones and the ribs? It is not an allegorical term, since no specific organ is mentioned but a particular region of the human body. A Muslim may argue that Pickthall Translation is inaccurate, as he is a British Muslim, not an Arab Muslim. Then let's read from Abdullah Yusuf Ali Translation. Quran 86 verse 5-7. Now let man but think from what he is created. He is created from a drop emitted, proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs. The loins, as translated by Picktall, becomes backbone of Yusuf Ali. Are the two testes located between the backbone and the ribs? Sperms are produced in the epididymis of the testes, which are stored outside the body, called the scrotum. As for a non-Muslim, let's read from a non-Muslim translation of the Quran by Nassim Joseph Dawood. Quran 86 verse 5-7. Let man reflect from what he is created. He is created from an ejaculated fluid, that issues from between the loins and the ribs. Under the Mosaic law, every word shall be established by a testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. 2 of the 3 Quran translators mutually agree that the region of sperm production is between the hip bones and the ribs. I shall quote from another Muslim translator, to fulfill the 3 witnesses. Quran 86 verse 5-7. So let man consider of what he is created. He is created of a gushing fluid, which issues forth from between the loins and the breastbones. Unquote. Yusuf Ali Translation. Yusuf Ali, born on 24 November 1875 in Lahore of Pakistan, was a prominent Ahmadi Muslim scholar. It is concluded that the Arabic text in the Quran specifies that seminal fluid, not specifically sperms, comes from between the loins and the ribs. Loins is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the part of the body on both sides of the spine between the lowest false ribs and the hip bones. A sperm is the male gamete, which is never called a gushing fluid in medical term. Fluid is a substance that has no fixed shape, and yields easily to external pressure, that is liquid. In fact, Quran is inaccurate and unspecific. A sperm is not a fluid but a living cell. According to Dr. Zakir Naik, Quran 86 verse 5-7 refers to the embryonic stages, the reproductive organs of the male and female, that is the testicles and the ovaries, begin their development near the kidney between the spinal column and the 11th and 12th ribs. Later they descend, the female gonads' ovaries stop in the pelvis, while the male gonads' testicles continue their descent, before birth to reach the scrotum through the inguinal canal. Even in the adult after the descent of the reproductive organ, these organs receive their nerve supply and blood supply from the abdominal aorta, which is in the area between the backbone spinal column and the ribs. Even the lymphatic drainage and the venous return goes to the same area. Naik's embryology is askew, as he was imputing his own words into the mouth of Allah. The aforesaid Quranic passage speaks of the emission of fluid from which a man originates from it. It is not about embryonic development. Before the zygote is formed, fertilization and implantation must take place beforehand. How could it skip to embryonic development, when the gushing fluid is commonly interpreted as the semen for fertilization? Did Allah really say fluid comes forth from the region between ribs and the hip bones? No, It was Muhammad who fabricated it by plagiarizing from faulty Greek's medical theory. Now, let's learn from the medical aspect, as where sperms are produced and stored. Sperms are produced, stored, and delivered by the male reproductive system. The male reproductive system includes the testes, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, Cowper's gland, urethra, and penis. The two testes of a man are located in the sacs called scrotum, outside the human body. The testes contain coiled structures called seminiferous tubules, which are the sites of sperm production. They produce over 12 billion sperms per month. The epididymis lies on top of the seminiferous tubules. Immature sperm migrate from the seminiferous tubules to the epididymis, to mature and be stored. How sperm is discharged from the scrotum. A married couple with prior intention to reproduce a baby will come together with mutual consent, love and respect. During sexual intercourse, the penis is inserted into the vagina and stimulate the clitoris near the opening of the vagina. When the sexual stimulation reaches a critical level of excitement, ejaculation will occur. Ejaculation is a reflex action controlled by the brain. At this stage, the ejaculation is unstoppable and lasts for less than a minute. The scrotum will pull the testes towards the pubic region, muscles will contract and squeeze epididymis to expel the sperm stored inside it, into the sperm ducts and mix with the secretions from seminal vesicles and prostate gland, before discharging through the urethra. On the other hand, woman has Bartholin's glands, which secretes fluid to moisten the vaginal canal during sexual arousal. Female ejaculation is a rare expulsion of fluid by the periurethral ducts, through and around the female urethra during or before an orgasm. It is also known colloquially as gushing or squirting. Less than 50% of women report that they have at some time experienced the gushing of fluid during orgasm. The female's fluid discharge contains higher levels of three substances, namely prostatic acid phosphate SPAP, prostate-specific antigen PSA and glucose, but a lower level of creatinine than the urine. However, none of these substances affect the fertilization of an egg and a sperm. How to make a baby. The ejaculated fluid called semen containing sperms releases through the penis, and these sperms may deposit inside the woman's vagina. During orgasm, the uterine wall will contract, sucking the sperms through the cervix into the uterus. But the seminal fluid from the man and the woman's mucus from Bartholin's glands does not conceive any baby. It is the egg, which is discharged from an ovary, once a month, that determines the conception of a baby, when it meets with a sperm from the man. A woman may not achieve orgasm at the same time the man ejaculates, and some women do not achieve any orgasm at all. These factors may affect fertility, but it is not how conception occurs. In order for a married woman to become pregnant, several events must occur as follows. 1. Sperms must swim through the cervix, through the uterus and along the fallopian tube, and meet an egg, which has just been released from the ovary, and which is traveling in the opposite direction along the fallopian tube. 2. One sperm must enter the egg and both cells must join together, so that their nuclei fuse, the process of fertilization. 3. The fertilized egg called zygote then starts to divide to produce more cells, but the ball of cells produced must become attached to the lining of the uterus called implantation, in order to develop further. It will also continue to produce a hormone called progesterone, which stabilizes conditions inside the uterus until birth. The sex of the baby is determined by the sperm and not by an egg. The semen consists of the mixture of Y sperms and X sperms in unequal proportions. In other words, a single male sperm carries either an X chromosome or a Y chromosome. A gamete, or sex cell, only has 23 chromosomes, whereas each cell has 46 chromosomes organized in 23 pairs. All female gametes in the mother's eggs possess only X chromosome. In humans, each cell or genome contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, a total of 46 chromosomes, which begins from a zygote. XY sex determination has been scientifically proven by genetic studies. Sperm were not discovered until 1677, when Dutch microscope maker Antony van Leeuwenhoek reported seeing animalcules moving like eels in a sample of his own semen under the microscope lens. Antony van Leeuwenhoek may have discovered a new world of cells in seminal fluid, but he was very mistaken about how sperm worked to fertilize eggs. The gushing fluid mentioned in the Quran does not require any revelation, as every man will discharge semen when he ejaculates. Edmund Beecher Wilson and Nettie Stevens are credited with discovering the chromosomal XY sex determination system in 1905. The fact is that males have XY sex chromosomes and females have XX sex chromosomes. Dr. Landrum Shettles, Ph.D., author for the book How to Choose the Sex of Your Baby, basically advocates the natural method, which involves timing intercourse to a woman's monthly cycle, and assuming certain sexual positions. In his book, Dr. Shettles explains that the male Y sperm is smaller, faster in alkaline medium, and more short-lived than the female X sperm. Because of this, it is better for boy-desiring couples to have sex closest to the time when a woman's egg is released or during ovulation. This way, the speedy male sperm could get to the egg sooner than the female one. Acidic environments may harm Y sperm, according to Dr. Shettles' theory, making conception of a girl more likely. To conceive a baby girl, sperm should be deposited in the vagina 2 to 3 days before ovulation. The Y chromosome apparently also enjoys an advantage over its counterpart, when the sperm is discharged as close as possible to the opening of the cervix. This is achieved through adopting certain position of the woman. The egg only carries X chromosome. When the egg fertilizes with X sperm, it produces a girl. If it meets with a Y sperm, it produces a boy. Positron says, "To be frank, I have not read the book, but I came across the article on the method on sex selection from the local newspaper even before I got married. I was convinced that the method on sex selection was practical, and did not violate the commandment of Yahweh. So I cut the article, and filed it until I got married. I have reproduced 2 boys by the timing of the ovulation of my wife using calculation method. In another case, my sister has 2 girls, and wished to have a baby boy. By taking my advice on recording the past month of ovulation and when the expected date of ovulation would occur, she succeeded to conceive a baby boy, without adopting certain body position method," says Positron. According to San Jose State University's website, sjsu.edu, on the topic The Explanation of the Sex Ratio of Human Births, the natural ratio of male births to female births is about 1.05, which means that about 51.22% of babies born are males. The given explanation is that the sperm of X chromosome is longer and hence heavier than the Y chromosome. This heavier burden delays X sperms from swimming towards the ovum, in the fallopian tube in an uphill journey. A longer and more uphill journey would increase the chances of a male conception. According to Sperm FAQ posted on WebMD.com, sperms inside a woman's body can live for up to 5 days depending on the conditions. Fertilizable lifespan of sperm is up to 72 hours, whereas the average lifespan for an egg is up to 24 hours after release. It needs to be fertilized within this time by a sperm for a baby to be conceived. In view of the fact that the average lifespan of an egg is much shorter than a sperm and that Y sperms swim faster than heavier X sperms through the fallopian tube, timing the ovulation and the length of the uphill journey for the sperms will influence the conception of a baby's gender. Bear in mind that the gender selection may not work 100% for some couples, but it cannot be denied that it increases the chance to conceive a particular gender under the favorable conditions provided by proper knowledge on the time of ovulation and the body position, to be adopted so that the Y sperm can reach the X ovum in the shortest possible time. Yahweh Elohim is in sovereign control of all things. It is Yahweh who gives wisdom to biologists to understand precisely How sex determination depends on the sperm's type from the father. Polygamy does not solve the problem of more girls' population in the United States. A female gamete carries 23 chromosomes, also known as a haploid cell resulting from meiosis, and it only bears one X-sex chromosome. So the probability of conceiving a baby boy or baby girl is in the ratio of 50-50 by nature. In terms of the highest probability to conceive a baby boy, it is only one day occurrence in a female 28-day monthly cycle called ovulation. The rest of the fertile period of 9 days or so will be favorable to conceive a baby girl. Polygamy may further increase the problem of more girls' population in the United States, because the husband without any knowledge of sex selection has a tendency to produce a baby girl from one wife and 4 girls from 4 wives. The best example is by looking at Muhammad himself, who had 11 wives, but he did not reproduce any healthy boys who could survive up to marriageable age. Muhammad had a daughter called Fatima, who married Ali ibn Abu Talib. It proves Muhammad did not suffer from infertility but lacking healthy Y sperm gametes. The household of Muhammad already had a gender imbalance in his family despite of adopting polygamy to address the issue. Since it is proven that polygamy cannot solve Muhammad's problem of gender imbalance, then how could it solve the problem of sex ratio imbalance in a nation? Bukhari 5:268. The Prophet used to visit all his wives in a round, during the day and night, and they were 11 in number. I asked Anas, had the Prophet the strength for it? Anas replied, we used to say that the Prophet was given the strength of 30 men. The most practical method to solve the problem of gender imbalance in the country is for each family to adopt sex selection on a long-term basis. If each family has one boy and one girl, then the issue will be resolved in the near future. Based on CIA Fact Book, the sex ratio for the entire world population is 101 males to 100 females. While Yahweh looks at the entire world population, Muslims look after the lust of the flesh to marry up to 4 wives and not keen to obey the gospel law passed down to us from Lord Jesus Messiah himself. Amen.